Welcome to Team DataFam Tableau User Group meeting number 23. This tug works a little bit differently to others. We cater more for the presenter rather than the audience, so we meet at a whole heap of different times so we can get the best presenters from around the world. All our meetings are held online and live, obviously, like tonight, but they're recorded and put on YouTube so you can watch them later as well. We've got a whole heap of TC25 presentations coming up over the next few months, but tonight we have something interesting and more local, and I'll talk about that in a second. If you would like to present at the tug, please email me at team.datafam@gmail.com and we can find a slot for you. But as I said, tonight we've got Jeremy Herder presenting Make Tables Matter. It looks to be very interesting, a different way of looking at Tableau and how to display data in a tabular format, but also looking at the power of formatting and everything as you do that. So Jeremy, I'll hand it over to you and you can take it from there.
So what I want to talk to you about today is how we could really build some interactive, useful table type content. And you can see what I've got on the screen. I've taken a screenshot. And if you look at the income statement on the left, this is a Tableau workbook and a Tableau viz where I've been able to get a whole lot of interesting pieces together. So instead of just having like one number format in the table, we're able to have a whole lot of number formats. So like your sales units are in regular numeric integers, revenue is rounded off to thousands. If you look at that margin, it's a percentage. And we've got revenue per unit at the bottom, which is in dollars and cents. So that's what I want to talk to you about today. But before I jump in, I just want to thank Chris and the Tableau team, or the DataFam team, for inviting me. I did talk about this at work sort of January-ish last year, and then spoke about it again, probably like I think in May or June last year, and a lot of really great feedback about it. So I'm really excited to be presenting it again, and great to have Andy on the line. And you've always been such a great supporter of the work that you do, and it feels good to have you here as well, because it's quite daunting to present a podcast. So let's jump in and have a look. Let's think about why we do this and why I decided to design this way of working with the data. It was because as a finance person, and I work for a large retailer in Australia, we often have to present data in this kind of way. And it can be quite complex to do with regular data modeling and regular viz builds in Tableau. If we think about the usual approach, we probably want to build expressions for or calculated fields for each of these sort of derived fields we've got. So for margin, percentage, or for gross margin or net income, we'd have to actually build a little calculated field to work it out in the data. But once you then try and build a more complicated way of looking at that, or probably a more clearer way of looking at it, when you want to compare like actuals with budgets and work out the variance, it gets quite complicated quite quickly. If you go into like Tableau Public and you find some of those profit and loss statement examples and download them, you'll kind of see they're pretty complicated. You've got to have all of these different marks, probably using like max of 0, and then you're going to have to pull those calculated fields onto those marks to actually get the viz to work. What I'm going to show today is a real simple way of getting that all together. The approach is also exciting because it allows you to have a kind of self-service approach to building these reports. Once you've got one report built, you're able to build more, and you can build additional metrics and roll your numbers up in a number of different ways. It's also quite efficient because it leverages the Tableau data model, right? So you'll only have like one fact table, but for each report, you're kind of combining it in a different way to actually create the report that you want to look at. So it's really exciting. I'm going to switch screens and kind of give you a little demo of the final outcome, and then we'll kind of walk back through the process. of building it. Here we go. So this is actual Tableau workbook, and here is the profit and loss statement, top left, and added a few little features. So if you hover on a number, you're going to get the trend. It's one of these little variance views where each bar represents whether you're better or worse than your budget each month, and you've got all those little months. Also showing how you can have a different calendar year. This is not a January to December. This is a fiscal sort of Australian financial year, which is July to June. You're also able to filter. So I've got a little map here where I can click on the states and it'll filter the chart quite nicely and allow you to have that view. And then the dynamic, part of it where you can build multiple reports is well shown by clicking on each of these different report types. So this is sort of a metrics only view. This is a margin view. And this is a full profit and loss view. So really powerful. Let me go back to my presentation. There you go. So, I've put a few examples on the slide of why we don't want to use spreadsheets. What if I told you it was an error in your spreadsheets? And if you go to this website down below, the spreadsheet horror stories, you can see all of the errors that have occurred through people using spreadsheets as their reporting mechanism. You're not able to ensure that all your formulas have been correctly propagated through the whole spreadsheet. One great example is one lottery that decided to choose the winner by sorting an Excel spreadsheet, and of course they hadn't extended that sort range down all of the names and came up with the wrong answer. So there are a lot of really good examples why we want to try and do this reporting in a far more governed environment, like a workbook, like Tableau, using data rather than trying to do that completely built a spreadsheet. So what were some of the problems we had to building a complex, beautifully formatted table? Firstly, initially, if you look at it, you can only have one number format in Tableau. It's very difficult, in the same measure in a table to have multiple number formats. So I wanted to overcome that. And of course, every time you need to build a new table, you have to create those new measures in order to build the new report, and then you have to republish. And that's really time consuming and potentially error prone as well. And you need a lot of testing to get that outcome. We can't really leave it to users to be kind of agile in the reporting they are going to build. So you always have to have a developer in the loop. And as I've mentioned before, when you're creating those sort of ratio type fields, it can become quite complex to kind of compare them to one another, like comparing your actuals to budgets and then getting the difference in the percentage in your variance column. So how do we overcome that? Well, use this user-defined report structure. So you basically take a table, and we're going to be using Google Sheets, where you kind of record the metadata about the report. And then you join it to your data to actually build the report outcome. It allows you to have as many ratios and percentages you need. They're easy to kind of put together in that database, and we'll show you how we do that with the Google Sheet. And it makes the data model quite simple, and things like subtotals are just additional ways that we combine the data together to get those outcomes. And I'll take you through how we build those subtotals. And you can do cool things like highlighting rows and adding formatting options. So really useful tools. Some of the tips and tricks, right? When we build this, use some of the Tableau features, which are really powerful, and we use them to leverage the power of Tableau and make a much more performant environment. So one of those is to use Boolean fields, your true or false fields, because once you wrap them in an integer function, they become ones and zeros. And if you times them by amounts, they kind of turn those amounts on and off. They operate like an if statement without needing to use an if statement. You can also use the spreadsheets for the reports and formatting. Users are able to update those formats themselves, and I'll show you how we do that when we jump into the spreadsheet. You're able to sort of let the user set what each row should look like in the final report. And then the actual numeric data, the fact table, can be narrow and tall rather than wide and shallow. And that makes it really performant as well when you're using it in your Tableau data model. One of the tricks we also use is layering up all your formatted number fields on the same label in order to allow the right one to appear when you need it to appear. And that's done using the number formatting strings that you can put together. And we use the kind of number formatting where when there's a zero, it's basically blank or null, which means that they quite elegantly replace one another. We also use, as I've said, the Tableau data model, or the noodle. It's really powerful, a real unlocker of performance, because as you can see in this diagram, we've got the data on the right, which is your fact table. It then gets joined to your measure table. Those are all the measures that you might need on your final structure or report table. So that's really powerful. You only have one set of data. You don't have that kind of expansion of data as you join all these different report types together. The report will build itself as you select it within the workbook. Also use some cross joins. We need some sort of structural elements, right? So for headers, we use a table which really just gets joined to the data model with like true on each side of the join condition, and that gives you the availability of those headers. And they allow us to do some really cool things, like let the sheet know what measure we're going to have on each of our columns. And then you can also do cool things like perform calculations on those by using that structure. Before we jump in more into the Google Sheet, just give you some little insight into how we actually calculate those percentages and those ratios. And please shout out if any of this is not clear. Happy to hear any feedback at this point. But here's a simple table. On the left-hand side is our row field, and you can see that this tells us on which row of the report this label needs to appear. So our first row is going to be sales. Our second row is going to be gross profit. And our third row is going to be gross profit percentage. The way that we build that is by having these numerator and denominator fields. So for gross profit, hopefully everybody's familiar with the concept. It's a financial profit and loss concept. You're going to have gross profit over sales. So gross profit gets a yes in the numerator column for that row 3, and sales gets a yes in the denominator column to show that that's the division that will happen in order to resolve our gross profit percentage. And then on the right-hand side, we have our formatting column. So for sales and gross profit, we have yes in the $1,000 formatting field, and then for our gross profit percentage, we have yes in the percentage formatting field. So with that, we can then use this pretty daunting little calculated field. Now it looks pretty daunting, but it's pretty simple. What it's trying to do is work out whether it's a ratio field or not, right? So if it is just a regular value, like sales, it's going to put sales on top as the numerator, and it's just going to resolve 1 as the denominator. But if it's a derived measure, like a ratio, right, you're going to then have sales, a gross profit on top as your numerator, but it will replace 1 with the actual denominator, the 10,000, giving you your gross profit percentage. And the way it does that is by using those Boolean fields that we had on the previous page. So if the row is a numerator, you'll get a 1 times the value, and in this case, you're timesing it by a budget flag. This is one that will give you a budget. So you're going to get your numerator on top of that calculation, and at the bottom you're going to get your denominator times the value times the budget. If you've got a denominator, if the denominator is ticked for that particular row, and this is where the cool part happens, where if you get a 0 because it's not a denominator, you'll get 0 times your value times your budget flag, so 0, and then you're going to add it to 1 minus the same thing. So you're going to get a 1 here, and if you don't have a denominator, this will be 0. So you're going to get a 1 underneath, giving you sales over 1 for the regular measure. If you do have a denominator, then you're going to get 1 times your value. So you're going to get your denominator value. And then this is just going to be 1 minus 1. So it'll be the denominator value plus 0, just your denominator value. I'm going to pause there for a little bit. Is that kind of making sense? Chris, tell me, did that little walkthrough make sense? This is quite an important little calculation. So just checking in. Any thoughts? Andy, help me here. Is this making sense? Cool. So
it's really simple maths. It's really looks really complicated, and the answer is like dead simple, right?
Exactly. But it's super powerful, because once you've got this, then that sort of on-the-fly recalc of all those sort of ratio rows works like a charm. Okay, so that's step 1. We've got to solve that first, right? We've solved that. Now we're going to move to the next part. It's like, well, how do we get this cool number formatting thing to start working? Let me take you through that next step. Well, before we do that, we want to get the right values in the right column, right? So the way we do that is by creating this report measure column. And over here, we've created one of these calculations for your budget, your actual, your last year, whatever you like. And then in the report measure column, we link it to that header table we've brought through. I'm going to show you what that header table looks like. The headers are really simple. You just got 3 numbers, right, that you bring through to Tableau. You just join it on that noodle, which means they're available to be used on the column shelf in the viz. You've got a 1 and a 2 and a 3 on the column shelf. Then all you do is, so when it's 1, then use your actual measure that you've calculated over here. If it's 2, use your budget. When it's 3, work out the variance. It's going to be like actual minus budget. This works incredibly well. So it's just taking those 3 different calculated fields and using them to get them in the right columns on your report. After that, we start creating one calculated field per number format. And again, you can use that same Boolean approach where And this, I've kind of simplified it here, but basically format and $thousands will be a 1. A 1 times your report measure will give you your $1,000 rows. If you think back to this table here, we'll be using that $1,000 field at the end. So we've got that as a yes. We will then see those report measures that are $thousands. Well, actually, that's dollar with cents. So that's a real simple approach to get those working. And then the key to ensuring that they layer on top of one another on the actual viz is something I can probably demonstrate on the workbook itself. So let's have a look at that. If you look on the left-hand side here, we have all these little report and AND fields. I hope you can all see them. They're probably quite small on the screen, but hopefully you can pick them up. If I right-click, then go to edit. So here's my report measure field, and I'm timesing this one by sort of just thousands. The numbers rounded off to thousands. So it's a simple little multiplication. If this number is 1,000, you'll get a 1 times by the report measure. And then the other little bit of magic here is to format this correctly. So let's go to number format. And I don't know how many people are familiar with these little number format codes, but they're super exciting. And there's a cool way and a simple way of actually working out what they are. There's a little hack to that. But nonetheless, the key thing is, firstly, this little bit before the first semicolon is the way it's going to format like the positive number, right? The second part is how it's going to format the negative number. And then the last part after this last semicolon is an @ sign, which means if it's 0, there'll be nothing. It'll just be completely like null. There'll be 0 strings at all. That's really important. If it didn't do that, then you'd get all the numbers sort of next to one another or have like a 0 or something between each, and it wouldn't resolve beautifully in the viz. You've got to apply the right formatting on each of those with that little @ sign at the end in order to remove the null or the 0 formatting. Once you do that, you can layer them up on the label pool here. So we've got all our different formats labeled one after another. And then I've added some little indicators as well, which we can go into. I can show you how we build those. They're at the end here. But nonetheless, once you layer them together, as they swap out, they align beautifully on the table, and it looks like it's just naturally working out the correct number format in the code. So it's a lovely little hack in order to get that to work. That makes sense. Now, at the top is that header, and I'll give you a view of how we build the indicator part. So firstly, you'll wonder, like, how do we get the indicators like at the end? Like they're not on each of the fields here, on these measures, on the actual budget. They're only calculated at the end, right? So I'll show you how we do that in a minute. But firstly, we need to calculate them. So I use these little ASCII symbols. I don't know how many people use them. Chris, Andy, anybody have ever used these before? So instead of trying to find a shape, you can use an ASCII code, which is like a string, like a font, I suppose. You can always call them up with the codes on your keyboard, but I've got sort of up and down triangles. And what this does, it says if the head is number 3, so the variance column, and upgood equals 1, and like, anybody know why we need upgood? It's because when you're looking at variances, sometimes being up on good or better than the budget is a good thing. And sometimes being like larger than the budget is a bad thing. If you've got a cost and you're larger than your budget, it's not good. But if you've got revenue and it's more than budget, it is good. So we built that into these little triangles, these little indicators. So they'll tell the right story for the user. So basically, if the header is number 3 and it's up good and the amount actual is less than the amount budget, then we can have this little down arrow because supposed to be good, but now actual is less than the budget. So that's actually not good, which is a down arrow. So we can create that. And then once you drag those onto the label, you can then color them over here and you put them one after one another, and they will then choose the correct little indicator for each of those rows so that you can finally end up with the outcome we see on screen here. Is that making sense?
Yeah, sorry, I might have missed it when I couldn't hear what you were saying. Did you go over the row banding, or have you not got to that bit yet?
Sorry, ask that again, Chris. Now I didn't hear you.
That's okay. So where gross margin and net income are highlighted, they've got a grey background.
Yes, let me show you that. Cool. I haven't actually gone through that yet. Okay, cool. So at the moment, I'm using 2 separate sheets. One for the actual sort of row labels over here, and then one for the numerics. Now there is a way to get around that. I'll figure out a new approach to do that, but that's probably for the next time. And I need some more time to actually get that working. But here's my highlight rows and columns field that I've dragged onto the color pool over here. And the way that we got that to work is in the structure, in that sort of metadata about the report, I've got a Boolean field saying, highlight me as the row, right? So then that's a very simple drag onto color and set color, and you'll get that highlighting to work. I'll give you a view of that in the Google Sheet. 1 second. Let's go here to the structure. So it's this field here, Chris. That is making sense. So the Google Sheet has each report. There's that first report. First report, your profit and loss report. Second report is the margin report. And the third report is the metrics only report. And you can then highlight any row you like. So what if we wanted to highlight, oh, sorry. Actually, yeah, we want to highlight that row. 1 second. Can share my screen again. Here. There we go. Go and refresh the data. And then go back here. There, that revenue per unit's now highlighted. So it's pretty quick and easy. And that's a demonstration of how you can just update the data and the report will change rather than having to go into the workbook and updating something in the workbook. So the thinking is, and we've kind of done that at work, that users can just update that Google Sheet, build new reports in the Google Sheet, and the next time the workbook loads, the new report's available. And that's why it's kind of self-service. That makes sense? First article.
No, that's pretty cool, because now you've got people who don't have any access or knowledge of how to build a dashboard, typing in some data into a Google Sheet, which creates a new dashboard.
Yes, and I've got a few minutes left. I'll quickly show you how we can add something to this report. And let's think of a complete finance type spreadsheet person who has no clue how to build Tableau. First, we'll go to the Google Sheet. And we're going to go to this measures section over here. Going to add another 2 rows. Make sure sharing. And let's build something. Why don't we do net income or gross margin per gross. Let me think. I'm trying to think of a very simple way of doing it. Let's do a gross margin per unit. 10. Right. Okay. So we're going to have gross margin is interesting because it consists of 2 things. It's got to have revenue and cost. Cool. And those are going to be our numerators. And 1 more row. And I'm going to have a denominator, which will be my units. There's my sales units over there. Gonna have to give it a new name. So I've added my new measure to my measures table. That will then go to my data, and it will find the right data. Cool. Then what we need to do is add it to our structure table here. We'll add it to report number 3. I'm just going to copy this down. And we've got this new measure. It's measure number 10. It's doing a bit of validation in the Google Sheet. We've got our row 17. Now we want to get our formatting right. So how would we want to format this one? We probably want to use this kind of formatting here. Well, actually, let's use the, yeah, that should work well. Yeah, cool. And then we can highlight that row. And up good is true. Cool. So there you go. I've added a new row to my report purely by using spreadsheets rather than knowing how to do anything within Tableau. Give me a second just to get it all working with workbook.
Mm-hmm.
There we go. Boom. Done. Whew. It was quite nerve-wracking, but you can see the additional highlighted rows being added to the reports. The data can come from your database. All that's happening is you're using that Google Sheet as your, and it could be an Excel spreadsheet, whatever, or it could be a database, whatever you need to actually house all the metadata and allow our users to build the reports they need. You can see everything's come through, even the little bar chart will work. And if you hover, you know, getting your gross margin per unit, little viz trend working as well. And all of the features will work well as we like filter on the months. So there you go. There's a simple way to build really powerful tables, income statements, whatever you need. They really work well with any kind of metric, especially when you've got a whole lot of different kinds of metrics you want to compare to one another or provide to the user. You can obviously have ways of filtering on metrics as well. You can enable any of us that you can, trends, whatever, to actually tell your story. Any questions?
I'm just echoing the comments in the chat. That's pretty cool. As I said before, it's just like, what? Hang on. You're building dashboards and measures in Tableau without using Tableau and typing stuff into a spreadsheet.
Yes.
That's cool.
Yeah. I must say this is built on work I've done before in previous tools, and probably people I should be acknowledging from my many years in data viz. But this user-defined reports approach really does help when you need to enable your team with a way of getting what they need on a report without having to go through all of those complex sort of development cycles. It's almost like you're building a platform in the workbook, right? You've got to build those a couple of measures, etc. But once you've done those hard yards, the users can really control what they want to see themselves. Cool.
And the absolute worst thing that would happen is if someone mucks up what they're typing into the spreadsheet.
Yes.
And then you just got to go back, and as soon as you change the spreadsheet, Tableau fixes itself anyway. It sort of self-heals from there as well.
Yeah. What we would do is version control the spreadsheet, or just name the versions. Okay, this one's working. But with the cloud-based spreadsheets you get these days, you've got your full audit trail. You can see every change anyone's made, and you can resolve that pretty quickly. It also allows you to put other data. So if you want to put the definition of what revenue per unit is, you've got a place to do it. You can add it to that spreadsheet, or if you've got links, you can pop them on the tooltip, for instance. Obviously, got many options, and you can house those links in the Google Sheet as well. So it really gives you a wonderful jump-off point to allow you to tell the story you want to tell and create the experience for the user that will really enable the outcomes you're looking for.
That's cool. That opens up just a lot of possibilities.
Yes.
Very quickly, very easily. So that you just go, hang on, it just explodes again that way.
Cool.
Has anyone got any other questions? You're all presenters, you can unmute and then talk.
Yes.
Go, Andy.
Yeah, I had a quick one if that's okay, Jeremy. So is this something that either has been or is kind of currently in production that's being used? I guess kind of the question I was asking is, how have your end users kind of received this? Can you kind of talk to that for us a little bit?
Yeah, no, it is in use. And we, sort of at work, we've used it in a couple of applications and have taught the users how to add those metrics themselves, and it's been quite successful. It's a bit of both. Obviously, one part of it is just allowing the developer to have some metadata to build everything, so it doesn't always have to be a user-defined approach. But certainly in some of the spaces I've worked in, we've absolutely let people add to those structural templates that then drive the outcomes. And it's probably like a sort of 10, 15, 20-minute learning curve. And you can go in and check that it's been done correctly. But once someone gets the hang of it, it's pretty easy to do just a spreadsheeting exercise. Wendy?
Yes, hi. I'm just putting my video on. Hold on.
No problem.
Hi, Jeremy. That's excellent. I'm one of those finance people you kept on referring to. But I'm in the data world now, but I've spent like 25 years as a financial controller. So I work with Chris. Chris is my our data engineer. So Chris and I did do a big project with the finance team, the new financial controller or the CFO, trying to build financial reports into Tableau. And this is an excellent, mind you, you've really thought about this, and this is not something how I deployed it, but I ended up building out the reports exactly like he wanted, because as you know, finance people, and yes, I'm one of them, they want things. It's because of compliance and the way reports need to be printed. It's not because we're inflexible. It's just the way things need to be. And I did everything. Everything looked perfect, and it was something. Chris built an excellent integration. Our data sources are published, so I don't know how this will work. I'm sure there's a solution we can use with that meta spreadsheet that you had. But just so in my scenario, it was the nature of the finance team. Like they, even though I built it all out, the fact that they had no control over that everything had to go through me, the whole project was abandoned, because even though I gave them exactly what they wanted, and it was something that could be rolled out, but they were going to be very dependent on me. But this is a little bit more, creates a bridge between the finance team and Tableau. I can tell you now, my finance team will never learn Tableau. They are excellent in I know I missed a little bit of your presentation at the beginning. I was a bit late, but I saw the slide where, you can make a lot of mistakes in spreadsheets. I totally agree. But finance people are like all of our financial reporting is through Excel. And they do an excellent job. So we've got a governance layer around our reporting in Excel. So they do check whether things are correct or not. But I mean, we could look at maybe not, report all of the financials through Tableau, but Tableau could be something where we're picking up certain KPIs, like you've had revenue margin, overheads, like those high level calculations, without going into the detail, to give quick visualizations, because I love this, how everything is kind of talks to each other, and it doesn't have and you're using a Google sheet in the background to kind of change the levers of all of this. But I can't see, in my context, I'm not saying this for all finance teams, I just can't see them. I mean, I don't know how easy it would be to teach them with the levers in that structured, that meta table that you built. How hard was it for you to train a finance team in doing?
No, that as I said earlier, it wasn't very complicated at all. Our finance teams are so well versed in spreadsheets, and once you talk them through it, they're comfortable. Of course, always very anxious. Can I break it? That kind of thing, and quick can understand it. I think in any world, you can always have many versions of the same thing. So where we are as well, a lot of this reporting does get done through spreadsheets. I think this is quite an exciting way of sort of democratizing the stuff. Getting out there, allowing people to kind of slice and dice their world. Like, if you get to an actual business unit person who wants to understand the income statement, this is a good way of doing it.
Yes, I agree. Rather than cutting the noise and all. It's good.
That's why I added the state thing. This could equally be like products or whatever, whatever your important dimensions are for analyzing, and you can allow people to quickly do that, which might be a little bit more complex in a spreadsheet world, and obviously allow the user access and all that kind of thing in a neat way, and enable the other viz that you can get. But I agree. Finance people are very comfortable in their spreadsheets, and there's some really good reasons why they are. It's just another tool in the toolbox.
Yeah. And if my data source is published, is there a solution for that, Chris?
Build another data source.
Oh, okay. So you can use relationships, but
Yeah.
the relationships you couldn't use, could you, with the published data source?
You can do that. What Jeremy's just showing now, that can be in a published data source itself.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So we can call that through. Okay. I thought that wasn't. Okay.
I want to say something about Tableau, the new versions of Tableau, where you're able to start using published data sources as data sources. I think something new is coming along there. But yeah, you have to kind of get it all together. I mean, we keep everything separate here, and that's very intentional in order to get something that really performs well. But this data here, for instance, could come from like your actual ERP data sets, and then it just joins to the structural template-y metadata type components to get your outcome.
Yep.
Thanks,
one of
Maggie.
these days we'll be able to relate published data sources together, and
Correct.
then we've got a whole new world, but not quite yet. But yes, we can do that. You can do all that. Those 5 tables there in a published data source and have that in Tableau.
Okay. Right. Got you.
Yeah. These publish really nicely, and you can then just use them in the exact same way.
Yep.
Great. Anything else, anybody?
That's great.
Thank you.
I have to watch it.
Well done, Jeremy. That was awesome. You blew us away when you did the initial internal tug, and I'm so pleased that you're sharing this with the wider community, because as you can see, with a handful of people here, you're still blowing people's minds, and it's such a great, such a creative way to do tables. It just really allows the flexibility, and I think it's wonderful. So congratulations.
Oh, thank you, Sam, and really wonderful to have you here on the podcast, Sam. You're always so supportive of all of us, and well done on your great work.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Cool. So that's it. If anybody wants to reach out, please do. I love this kind of thing. Very passionate about it. So happy to chat and share with one another. If anybody's got a better way of doing it, please let me know. I did try and go through a lot of the content on Tableau Public and figure it out, but would always love to learn anyone else's approaches to the same challenge.
That's good. And I think your workbook is downloadable from that Tableau Public link, so I'll be downloading it and pulling it apart as well.
Yeah, I've built a new one for today, and so I'll update it with this one in the next couple of days, so you can play with this version.
Awesome. Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And the next section is the Fast 5. So, as I said, quick questions, quick answers. Just there's no right answer, there's no wrong answer. It's a personal feeling about what the questions are. Random questions that you've never seen before, because I only built them today or yesterday. And as I said, if they're too hard, pass. But it's just some light-hearted questions. First question: what's your favorite Tableau learning resource?
Ooh, what's my favorite Tableau learning resource? I think YouTube. Yeah, love it. It's always good. I learn well from watching the task unfold before my eyes and hearing someone talk through it. So yeah, YouTube videos are great for me. My learning methods that work.
Awesome.
And a bit of trial and error as well,
Always.
Sorry.
That's why you always have YouTube on one screen and your workbook on the other one to go through and see.
Yes.
Yeah, perfect. Question number 2. What is your process for testing the accuracy and integrity of your data visualizations?
Ooh. I keep it super simple. Always have that one sheet where you just got tables and the simple calcs, and you're able to check that against something that's kind of your source of truth. So it's always back to simple old mathematics and the calculator and real basic tables. Often you got a chart, a little, something interesting. I would duplicate that sheet and convert it back to a straight table to make sure the numbers are doing what I think they should be doing.
Yep, definitely. And question number 3, what is your favorite feature or function in Tableau and why?
Tooltips. Love tooltips.
Yep.
I think they're amazing because they keep the little bit of real estate that you're looking at really, really compact. And they allow you to answer kind of the next question, right? And they can keep you in the space that you're in. I really don't always enjoy being moved all over the show as I'm trying to drill through, but I think tooltips are incredible for just enabling you to quickly answer a question as you're consuming the visualization.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. And number 4, how do you approach learning new Tableau tools or updates?
I will watch YouTube. I'll then go in Tableau Public and I'll download the workbook, and I'll take my time to really rip it apart and figure out how it all comes together. One of the viz of the days recently was where a metric dashboard, I think it was last week, was put together using the map layers.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, I probably could pull it up, but I really thought that was super exciting because I think you can achieve what I'm achieving now on one sheet. So you could have like line charts, you could have your numeric values, your indicators, like everything in one place. And I love that because it makes sort of maintenance and formatting really simple. So I've got that one downloaded, and when I've got time, I'm gonna really figure out how to do it.
You're probably not far off the mark because your data structure would probably lend itself really well to map layers because you've already got some of those coordinates there.
Yeah,
that'd be
exactly.
A cool challenge.
Yeah, so yeah, that's my next bit of learning I want to do. I think map layers are incredibly powerful for unlocking some of the challenging parts.
And you know, and I know, and everyone else has just got to go with my honesty here. These questions are not scripted beforehand, but we've sort of answered number 5, if I remember it properly. What kind of data would you love to explore next in Tableau?
Oh, there you go.
We sort of just said it.
Exactly.
I just saying that, I went, I think I know what question number 5 is.
No, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's my next kind of place to go and play. It's figuring out how to work out those map layers. I really haven't done a lot in that space, but I've seen some incredible, beautiful vizzes and data storytelling put together using that feature.
Yeah, all the one sheet is
yes,
try at the moment.
Absolutely.
And it lends itself back to what you've been doing like fairly well. So
that's what I'm thinking.
Mm-hmm.
I may reach out for some help there, Chris.
Okay. I think Jacob's the one to talk about map layers, but I think he's presenting that in a few weeks as well.
Fantastic. Yeah, the workbook, I've got it in the background. Yeah, it's something like custom table with map layers was the viz. The viz of the week or viz of the day or something.
Yep. No, cool. That's good. Talking about future, on July 17th, so on, say, because today's Monday, Dara is presenting about Tableau MCP, so how basically AI talks to each other and how he can use Claude AI to build things in Claude, talking to Tableau data sources, so you don't even need to use Tableau anymore, but all very exciting. I can't explain it properly. He's going to explain it on Thursday. Again, those times, so if you're in Sydney and Europe, good times, or in most of Australia. If you're in the US, well, it sort of sucks, but you might get up. I did see some US people here before Celia dropped in for maybe 10 minutes and left, but it was very early her time, so that's cool. And all the recordings, so tonight's recording, all the sessions that we do, a lot of other different tugs around the world, it's all available on YouTube at Team DataFam on YouTube. You can also listen to things on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Like Jeremy and a whole heap of other people, if you want to present, please email me at team.datafam@gmail.com. We'll find a slot for you. Whatever your presentation is, hopefully Tableau related, we'll find a slot in the coming weeks and you can present as well. But again, thank you for coming. That was very intriguing, interesting, challenging, opens up a whole range of different possibilities in Tableau apart from what people normally do in Tableau as well. And if anyone else wants to say anything, now's the time to unmute.
Thank you, Chris. Thanks for the support. Appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you. Thank you for your time as well.
Thank you.
Cool. Thanks, Jeremy. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you so
Thanks,
much, guys.
Chris.
Really appreciate it. It was really cool.
Welcome.
Okay. Thanks a lot. Talk to you soon.
Cheers, Chris. Thank you.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
see you. Okay, bye.